Edward, what are the particular problems facing small family farms?
The income isn't enough for them to survive on as a family. Their ability to access sort of good help is limited by the size of their farm. Their ability to typically, if they're looking after a 150-acre farm, they're so busy that doesn't create sufficient income for themselves. So they haven't got that ability to go off the farm and earn income either. So they're struggling as a family. An increased level of bureaucracy, so how do they deal with all that level of bureaucracy? So because they can't afford to buy in extra help. Increasingly one of loneliness, I would say, as that small family farm that, if you looked back into the 1960s, would have employed many people, and now they're on their own.
So they must feel very isolated.
They do, yes. I remember going to one farm, I'd been there probably a couple of hours talking to him about something, and he said to me, I said, well, I'll have to get on. He said, no, I haven't seen anybody for 4 weeks.
Gosh.
So you need to so there is one of loneliness, and I think there's another issue of health and safety. How do they deal with those large animals, sort of limousines? They need to be tagged. How are they going to do those when they're on their own? So they need to be able to call on a sort of network of other farmers around them who are often farming on their own as well. So they need that network of small farms around them to sort of help at those situations, and they can't always help either. So it is a struggle for them to do it. I think the other issue is that I would see is often the wife, particularly as the young family, they grow up. The wife is going out to work, the children are at school, or they're teenagers, and they're lonely again. So they lose their way, and often we see it. I've gone to a number of farms where you can see farms have lost their way, become lonely. They're increasingly under pressure from their dairy company or business to get things right, and then they find that they get behind, they're under pressure, and they start to, well, I've lost direction, what am I doing? And now they're what are they, as that business goes forward, how are we going to work it?
But some people then would say, surely then this is a way of life which is unsustainable anymore. We can't operate like this. All farms should be huge. Why should we help small farmers like this?
I think, particularly, I'm based in the very far west of Cornwall, and you see that landscape of very small farms. The small field sizes, and then you look at it and say, well, actually, if we allow that to continue, we allow those small farms to go, what is it going to look like? We're not going to manage it with small herds. We're going to manage it with 300 cow herds. Now, I see 300 cow dairy herds. They're too big to go outside, so they have to come inside. You can't turn those animals out twice a day to be milked because it's just too big. So now we're going to have to farm those small fields with large machinery. So those fields are too small, so we need to have bigger fields.
So it directly affects the quality of produce and the way in which it's farmed.
The land is going to be, that environment and that landscape is going to be managed because those small farms are no longer there. So it's going to have to be done on a bigger scale, so bigger tractors, and a different way in which those farmers farm.
How important are small family farms in terms of the British landscape?
I think they provide a backbone to the community as well, in that you often see that those family farmers are on the parish council. They're the ones that drive the snow ploughs. They're the ones that cut the trees down when they fall on the road. They're the ones that are there. They're the ones that, if a vehicle goes off the road, they put the chain on and they pull that thing off the road. They're that backbone. They've got something there. Whereas once it becomes one big single farm, then often it's managed from afar. It's a company that comes in. That community is lost, and now it's being managed by a worker or a farm manager, and there's no sense of belonging anymore.
So lose the small family farms, and in effect you rip the heart out of the British countryside.
You do, and it isn't just then. There's the schools as well. It affects the little shops, and it affects the landscape and what it's going to look like because it's managed. I see in West Cornwall where you see these bigger farming businesses are taking over sort of large tracts of land. The smaller farms are disappearing, and we're going, instead of that being managed, so those little fields would be some grass and some corn and some cabbage and some daffodils. We're going to manage that as one. So that's all potatoes.
So Cornwall becomes prairie farming?
Parts of it do, yeah.
Do you think people forget that every square inch of the British countryside is actually managed? Somebody's, whether it's a grouse moor or apparent wilderness, somebody is looking after it and making sure it stays the way it is or it continues to grow.
I do think, yes, I think you look at every part, it is a managed landscape and has been for thousands of years. And I could say just from our own area, that landscape is an Iron Age landscape, the very west of Cornwall, and has been managed in such a manner with traditional breeds and traditional ways of crops and grassland.
And in effect, that becomes part of its economy because people come to see it, because it's like that. So the standard of farming, the type of farming, affects tourism as well.
It does, yes.
You wouldn't go there to see,
No.
500 acres of potatoes, would you really?
No, and they also come to see an active farm.
Yeah.
They come on holiday to stay in that self-catering cottage, and they want to be able to see a livestock enterprise on that farm. They want to be able to see it as a functioning family farm and feel that they're putting something back into it.
What difference has the Prince's Countryside Fund made to small family farms?
I think from our own organisation, it's given us we are asked to go to those farms which are struggling, whether that's the bank or their family member or a vet has said there's a farm that needs some help. Now, for us to go into that farm then and give them that help as a farm advisor, then to go and present them with a bill is not going to help them. Often they're in debt or there's some mental health issues. So for the Prince's Countryside Fund funds us as an organisation to go and help that farm. And a bit like there's examples of farms where I've been to a farm where they were in substantial amount of debt over a long time. That's there's been mental health issues of anger management. I've sat with that son in the doctors. He's been so frustrated that his safety net was the farm. His problems at home, problems on the farm himself, but actually to go and work on the farm was his safety net. But the anger he felt by the frustration, he knew he was going to lose that farm. But to have somebody who could be there with him, but also understand the business and what needed to be done was very helpful.
It must be very hard for farmers to admit that they need help. We're a proud nation. I'm a man of the land. The men and women of the land of this country are even prouder and far less willing to ask for help.
Yes, I think there's a sort of nature within farmers that they see everything black and white. Is that if an animal needs to be put down, they will slaughter it. They often have access to shotguns, they have access to ropes, they see things in a very, very matter-of-fact manner. And I would say I've probably sat through 3 or 4 issues where people have talked to me about suicide. A person who was his farm was failing. He was looking after his parents, one of which was they were going to have to care for the parents as well, which is another issue we see increasingly on farms. And his dog was on one of the drugs to sort of calm the dog down, and he decided to take that as a means to control his own depression. And we realised something was wrong, and we got him the help that he needed because he didn't really need where he was going.
Is it the pressure of failure that it makes a farmer feel he wants to take his own life?
I think it's a pressure of. It is a pressure. I think it's a pressure of failure, a pressure of the sheer amount of debt that is being accrued.
No way out.
No way out. I think it's perhaps that they always wanted to do. Somebody told me they wanted to do better. They won't want to fail their parents. Father handed this farm on to me. I want to be able to pass it on, and I don't feel as though that's going to be able to happen.
When the Countryside Fund steps in and does help, how much weight has it lifted in your experience from
I think it's lifted an enormous amount of help. They've got somebody that has been supported by the Prince's Countryside Fund that to have somebody there to hold their hand in that situation, to guide them through. And it isn't just a day, it could be for many, many months or years, to get them to a point where you can turn that business around, or get them to a point where actually the farm is no longer going to be your way forward, but it's going to be, you're going to exit the farm and there's going to be a life after it. And to realise that there is a way in which we can get you to that point, and the Prince's Countryside Fund has enormously helped us as an organisation to allow that, to enable us to do those things for farms.
So the Prince's Countryside Fund saves farms, farming communities, it also saves lives?
I would say so, yes, yeah, without a doubt.
Why do people farm? What makes somebody become a farmer?
It's in their family. I love it. I love farming. It's something that, although not from a farming background, it's something that you just can't stop it. It's in your blood. You want to keep going.
The contact with the land.
The contact with the land, the contact with animals,
And
the
seasons.
growing of crops, the seasons. It's unstoppable. You just can't get it out of your blood. And I think there's for them to say, well, actually we're going to stop farming, then they can't see a life beyond it. What am I going to do? We have just helped one farmer who's actually stopped farming. Now the family has given up, but to allow him to keep his sanity in a way, he's developed his own business as a carpenter, but he's took on the rented land of about 50 acres. He's going to keep some of the animals from the previous farm, which will allow him to keep that connection to his previous family farm. Rent the buildings. We've supported him in getting all of his paperwork and his movement licenses and his rural payments agency work. So that's all in the right place.
So you're showing that there is a way around the problem. It doesn't mean you've got to be completely divorced from the land.
No.
You can actually keep connected to it, but in a sustainable way.
Yes, and be a sustainable business. Yes, yeah.
Tell me about the Prince's Farm Resilience Programme.
Okay, we've been involved with, we're on our third year now, so we helped as a mentor with the Launceston group, and we completely ran the Penzance group, and we're just establishing the Mid-Cornwall group based around St Austell. It's helping that sort of small family farm, so not the sort of hobby farm and not the large farm. They're mixed tenanted farms tend to be, so beef, sheep and arable and dairy. And what we've done what the programme is it gives them access to experienced experts and consultants from across the country who will come and talk to them about business. Now I go into many farm meetings and they'll talk about production of silage or calf rearing or whatever it is, but they never have access to business, so it's talking about a series of business workshops which will take the family through as well, because it's not just about taking the farmer along, it's bringing the family as well, so the wife and the daughter and the son.
And this presumably is all the administrative work and form filling and regulations and all that kind of thing, which is now so much a part of modern farming in the same way as it is of modern teaching and education. That presumably is stepped up for farmers as well. And
also so to give them access to how they would understand a set of accounts, and also succession as well. That's a very big issue that we see, and one of the things which causes problems is that at that passing of the farm from one generation to the next. So there are sections within the Prince's Resilience Programme about succession, and also trying to find out what the farmers want from the farm. So it's been interesting to listen to some of the farmers. We've got to get rid of debt, we want to invest in the farm, and it's giving them the tools to enable them to, how do we do that? And also at the same time accessing to some of the best advice that they can get hold of, which they would never be able to afford otherwise, whereas that advice is really for the big farm. This is for that small farm that they just wouldn't, and they just carry on in their own way, and just as Dad always has done.
So if it hadn't been for all those aspects of the Prince's Countryside Fund, many small family farms would already have gone to the wall.
They would either gone or they'd be struggling, yes. Or with the Penzance group, we've seen some who've changed direction and said, well, actually, this is no longer a sustainable business. I need to look at how we can do it. I now understand how my costs are. and what they are. I need to be more responsible within this business, and this isn't working. I need to change direction. And we've seen some that have established farm shops. We've seen some that have gone out of dairy production and gone into other parts of businesses and have changed. This is sustainable. I can do this, and it's perhaps given them the confidence that they didn't have before.
And as the demands of a population change in terms of food, so the farmer needs to adjust so that is fulfilled.
Yes, yeah. I think at the moment for them to change that they're still stuck in what we've always done in terms of milk production and cabbage and cauliflower production. I think there's another wave that they need to do to get them to go to that next level, but it does open their eyes up, which they hadn't done before. And I would say this will be about 70 farmers that we've been on the programme in Cornwall over the last 3 years.
Rewarding job for you?
I find it very rewarding because you get to those positions where it can be really sad and depressing, and you're dealing with those farms which are like that, and you do need something as a person to have some positive work that you do, because it does get you down a bit.
So when you can turn one round, it's all worthwhile.
Yeah, that's an achievement, even if it's not that many, but you do, yeah, that's worked.
Yeah,
We've made a difference.